The party returned to the Blue Water Inn to make final preparations for the festival in that coming evening, which, at this point, felt like it had been coming forever. Unfortunately, as they arrived at the inn, Mbappe began convulsing and fell to the ground. The party was terrified, both because of their friend's apparent recurring health issue, but also because surely there wasn't enough time to do a fun, quirky one-shot before the festival started. Unless... From out of a shadow in the corner of the room, out came Dark Velma. She knelt beside Mbappe and informed the party that his illness was very serious, and she feared that it could kill him. She informed the party the only way to save him was to go into his mind and change his past. She performed an incantation and soon sent the party whirling through space and time. As they fell towards Earth once again, Dark Velma could be heard saying,
"Find Mbappe's pain and destroy it."
Otto and Giles awakened on a beach, with Dark Velma, Mbappe, and Doggo nowhere in sight. As they heard the familiar sound of birds chirping and drums in the distance, they both knew that they had arrived in Africa. As they gathered themselves, they were approached by some natives who had been playing soccer nearby. Otto was very happy to be the one to take the lead in the conversations for once. The more muscular of the two introduced himself as Mbappe, and he also introduced his brother, Mbappo. The party had stumbled upon a past version of their friend before he had even left the shores of Africa. Mbappe and Mbappo invited Giles and Otto to play a game of soccer with them. The two pairs were evenly matched, but Giles was able to score the winning goal just barely, redeeming himself only slightly in Otto's eyes after the last match. As the match ended, Mbappo departed for the upcoming hunt, and Mbappe invited his new friends over to the bar nearby to enjoy some mojitos on the beach. As they talked, the party learned that their money was no good in this land, and that they would need to find cowrie shells to use as currency. So what could have been a relaxing afternoon became a frantic search for money to pay the bills for their drinks. Thanks to a surprising windfall, Otto and Giles were able to find enough cowrie shells for as many mojitos as they wanted, plus a massage for Otto, for which the masseuse insisted on it being happy. Anyway, what basically happened was Giles enjoyed a mojito on the beach, while Otto spent 6 minutes being furiously jacked off next to him. After that, Otto dove into the ocean to wash off, and the pair rejoined Mbappe at the bar. Mbappe talked with the party about his past, coming from a very technologically advanced society to the east, that he had to escape with his brother. He likened it to Wakanda, if that helped as a reference to the party, which it did not. Suddenly, a man burst into the tent, saying that there was a problem. Mbappo had been kidnapped by a rival tribe. Remembering Dark Velma's command, the party decided that helping Mbappe was indeed in their best interests, so they made preparations to leave. Otto even acquired a new pet for the Dream Realm, which he named Crabbo. As the party wandered into the jungle nearby, they were ambushed by attackers. After the fight, Otto found a poisonous frog nearby and decided to bond with it. And so ends the saga of Crabbo. All hail the reign of Froggo! As the party continued to make their way past ambush after ambush in the jungle, they came across more and more severed fingers. It got to the point where the party started demanding the fingers of their live enemies, due to supposing that they had some sort of value. Coming upon a river, the party encountered two samurai who were, I guess before we could finish that exposition, Otto started picking a fight with one of them. As Mbappe sat with the two geisha nearby, Otto and Giles, who he had dragged into the fight, began to take on the samurai near the crocodile-infested river. Since they were samurai, Otto and Giles agreed to fight with honor. Apparently, honor meant making very strangely racist comments towards Giles, which Otto countered with his own honor.
He's an outlaw, loose and running, came the whisper from each lip, and he's here to do some business with a big iron on his hip. Big iron on his hip.
With his samurai weakened from the gunshot and blinded by Froggo, Otto threw fingers into the river to rile up the crocodiles. And as the waters churned, he yeeted the poor samurai down into the river. As he looked down at the crocodiles in the water, Otto supposed whether he could persuade a crocodile to become his new companion. One with a particularly willing cloaca approached him and declared it would gladly join him. And so the reign of Froggo ended. All hail the reign of Crocco! Meanwhile, Giles's fight with the samurai that he had reluctantly been forced to do battle with was not going very well. In a last-ditch effort, he made an attempt to shoulder-check the samurai into the boiling pot of sake. It fortunately worked, and the samurai were slain. As the party rested by the campfire that night, there were numerous happies. Riding further into the swamp the following morning, it became clear that the other crocodiles did not take kindly to the presence of the party. Before too long, a king croco rose up from the swamp before the party and began to fight them. Taking the party by surprise, he critically hit Giles and almost one shot permanently killed him from full health, so that was cool and scary. As Giles lay dying in the swamp water, Crocco, Otto, and Mbappe managed to finish off King Crocco, skinning him and taking his loot. Mbappe threw a potion into Giles's face, and the party brought him back onto Crocco to begin tending to his wounds and to prepare to move further into the swamp. The way ahead looked dark and dangerous, and full of crocodiles. The party wondered if the crocodiles ahead posed any threat, but Giles pointed out that they surely wouldn't be the worst croc attack that the party had suffered that day, and those were words encouraging enough to allow the party to travel onwards. Exiting the swamp, the party began to climb up and out into a rocky hill, where soon they came upon a large gap with archers on the other side. Stealthily jumping across, Otto made it to the other side with the guards and managed to avoid detection. Then he turned to his friends and made the universal hand signal to jump, which apparently is 2 fingers running and then jumping off the other hand. Scared that neither of them would do as good a job as Otto, Mbappe and Giles made the universal symbol for throwing a rock at the guard's head, so Otto went for it. As Otto killed the guards, Giles took his turn to jump across, giving the party a fun new task of saving his life yet again, as he had failed to jump well. Fortunately, it worked, and the crossing was very uneventful after that, even considering they somehow figured a way to get Crocco across the gap. As the party worked through the clearing ahead, they came upon a large compound. As the party made a battle plan, Mbappe asked about Giles's accent, which he thought was British. Giles said, "No, it comes and goes." As he continued to eye the compound, Mbappe's head began to hurt, and he felt flashbacks like he had been in this place before. Otto and Giles asked how often the flashbacks had been coming, and he said, "Oh, they come and go." He wondered about the visions he saw, the previous visits to this compound, and how they turned out. Otto started to say that Mbappe was a guarded person, but Giles reminded him that he did recently walk around Vallaki with his dick hanging out. Mbappe interrupted to ask about this strange future of which they spoke, and he inquired as to whether he had pants in the future, to which Otto and Giles responded, "Oh, they come and go." And with that, the party hugged and bonded over their friendship as they turned with renewed focus to get to the temple to save Mbappe. After careful deliberation, the party decided on a means to enter the compound. Giles, by far the least dexterous of the party, would take the chance to show off some cool ninja moves, doing a series of backflips towards the compound before vaulting onto a nearby rock, landing on the shoulders of the nearest guard with his head between Giles's dummy thick thighs, all the better for use in snapping the guard's neck. Unfortunately, what really happened was Giles failed to do even one backflip and wound up falling into the nearby fire pit, although to his credit, he did do it without making a lot of noise. On the fly, the plan was quickly revised to the party slitting the throats of the guards while Croco violently ate the third guard nearby. As the party entered the main building, a man inside the center area raised force fields all around, telling the party that they would not be allowed to interrupt the ritual before it was over. The party tried to think quickly, but their spells and attacks dissipated in the force field. Mbappe also noted that he had not learned Misty Step yet. Looking around, the party noticed nearby resonance stones that seemed to be powering the force field, so they set to work quickly to bring down the force field and save Mbappe. Living up to his name at long last, Giles Poundstone pounded the ever-loving shit out of the first resonance stone, and the force field began to flicker slightly. As more enemies encircled the party, Otto and Croco fought bravely as Mbappe desperately tried to remember what he could bring to the table, almost as if he was having trouble finding a sort of sheet that could dictate the abilities he had, as a character. In a nearby hallway, Giles encountered a screaming woman who claimed to be a princess. She begged for him to set her free, and Giles wondered whether she was an allegory for something in Mbappe's mind palace. She insisted that she didn't know what an allegory was and that she wasn't one, so Giles freed her, only for her to stab him in the stomach as payment, shrieking, "You will not stop the ritual!" Unfortunately, doing this gave Giles a chance to counterattack, which did not work out well for her. As more guards fell and more stones were pounded, Mbappe fell to the floor, remembering everything.
My friends, I remember. I was here, but I was alone. When we destroyed the last stone, I had to make a choice. The High Priest is using the stone of my people.
Mbappe took out a necklace with a jade pendant from his pocket and recalled to the party that he had to make a choice to save his brother or kill the priest to prevent him from escaping. Mbappe wondered if, now that he wasn't alone, the party could work together to make both choices. The party wondered what sort of butterfly effects helping change the past would bring about. The party felt the need to divulge that they were from the future in order for Mbappe to trust why they were so hesitant to save Mbappe. Mbappe protested, asking them if they were from the future, why would they travel back in time to ensure the same result? Otto insisted that he and Giles must have been sent there to teach him a lesson about how to get over sadness and death through the power of friendship. Mbappe counter-insisted that it was not the time for Sunday TV plotlines and asked them firmly once again if they could just help him save Mbappe already. So this time, the party finally agreed. Inside the center area, the priest turned and broke the ritual as the party approached, promising to get to it later after he had finished with the party, and an epic fight ensued. Though all members of the fight were greatly weakened and nearing death, they all continued to get up to fight. However, as the priest rose one more time, a blinding light flooded into the room, and the priest was deleted from existence. As the light faded on the priest's remains, Dark Velma stood where only ashes remained.
Jinkies, you have righted the wrongs of this world, and the things that have hurt him are now gone, at least until he can't make the next session. I am truly proud of you guys. This is a time when I will surely say Jinkies when describing it to my friends.
As the chains on Mbappe were broken and the brothers reunited, Otto and Giles found themselves once again floating through space and time until they slowly faded into their surroundings, back at the Blue Water Inn, where they were greeted by a familiar face. As Mbappe regained consciousness, Erwin Mardikov informed the party that the festival was to begin within the hour, and they needed to get ready because surely this was a crossroads in the party's destiny. Everyone left the Blue Water Inn and divided to take their different roles in the festival. the party went to join the Baron, as they would be his bodyguards, posing as his honored guests. As everyone was gathered in the town square, it began to rain. Otto commented about the irony of it raining on the festival, and the Baron, ignoring him, cursed the devil Strahd for trying to ruin the festival of the burning sun with rain. The Baron announced that the festival would commence anyway and began to attempt to light the sun effigy, although the rain caused that to be difficult. Eventually, taking pity on the Baron, Giles just cast Flaming Sphere when no one was looking to help him out. After a number of failed attempts, Lady Voctor pushed her way to the front of the crowd, loudly asserting that the Baron was a blight upon the town and that the people would stand it no longer. As loud arguing broke out, suddenly a pocket opened in the crowd as people began to loudly exclaim that someone had been murdered. With tensions now at a high point, Mbappe loudly suggested that Lady Voctor and the Baron should fight to the death. Despite the crowd noise, his loud assertion was blessed by Otto firing the big iron into the air. Lady Voctor protested and countered that they should use champions, as any fight she would be involved in would surely be unfair against her. The party took a brief moment to pray to Dark Velma for guidance, and to their surprise, she appeared. However, she offered only limited wisdom.
I will not interfere with the quarrels of mortals. If it's chaos you want, then chaos shall reign. I'm sorry if that's not what you want. Drinkies! Bye!
Unclear on what to do, the party realized that Dark Velma was right. The only answer was chaos. Who cares if that's not what she meant? That's what they heard, and they heard it loud and clear. So with that, Giles and Otto launched a barrage at Lady Voctor and her lackeys, killing them instantly. The Baron promptly declared his victory over the Voctors, as they had basically just been killed, but the party then suddenly turned their attention to him. Thinking quickly, the Baron looked at the biggest threat near him and found it in Doggo, who he killed and kicked his limp corpse off the stage. But the Baron had forgotten to take full stock of his surroundings. And with a clean strike, Mbappe decapitated the Baron. With the death of the Baron, Isaac, the Baron's faithful bodyguard, turned to glare at the party. However, as he did so, he noticed a familiar sight through the now thinning crowd. It was his long-lost sister, Irina. He began to storm towards her, having been desperately searching for her for years. But Irina was Mbappe's booty, and in addition to that, the party either did not know, or did not recall, or didn't care that Isaac was Irina's brother, and so they could not let this come to pass. Mbappe repeatedly held Isaac as he repeatedly broke free of the magical containment and ran towards Irina. All the while, the party laid into the big man, eventually bringing him down, as Mbappe dealt the final blow as he was mere feet away from reaching his one goal in life, his long-lost sister. With the dust settling on the fight at the festival, the party surveyed the damage that had been done. To the remaining townsfolk that had taken cover in the area, Erwin stepped up onto the stage and declared that the tyranny of the Baron and the Voctor house was over. Erwin suggested to the party that they would need new guards, to which Otto suggested adding the party to the Order of the Were-Ravens. Erwin said he would think about it, but suggested that the party first rest at the new governor's mansion, and the party agreed. Although, at the same time, they could feel the invitation from Strahd in their pockets, beseeching them to remember it. In the meantime, they figured that they were at least due for a rest, and since they also needed to resurrect Doggo, Strahd could wait. So they went off to the governor's mansion to relax. In the governor's mansion, the party enjoyed the spoils of their victory. Mbappe was given some rum from Miss Alicia, not to be confused with Ipisha, who came to bring meats to Otto so that he could resurrect Doggo. As the night went on, Erwin announced that he would retire to his Virgo bedroom and made the mistake of telling the party that they had the run of the place. While talking about what they wanted to do, Irina, who had come to meet up with the party in the mansion, insisted that the party answer Strahd's call sooner than later. Mbappe interpreted this as her saying she would give Mbappe her heart if he went to go kill the devil Strahd now. So, naturally, at this point, the party split up. Otto began the process of resurrecting Doggo, but the meat was being consumed and he needed more. He yelled down for Hypatia, but she did not come because at the same time, Giles was keeping her busy making some very sad attempts at flirting with her in the kitchen. Meanwhile, Mbappe took a couple of the ladies and began toking up on some dank kush that he found in a drawer, along with 6 joints and 5 Cuban cigars. Looking around further, Mbappe found evidence of what appeared to be a man having been shoved into a wall. Mbappe supposed that was their doing. Interested in finding more things, Mbappe and Irina moved upstairs and began looking around to see if there was more crap they could loot from the previous burgomaster, and they managed to find a powder room with a wedding gown. This triggered some memory in Irina, and she turned to Mbappe and said that she needed to tell him something about Strahd, and began to pull down her shirt. Excited, Mbappe began undressing too, until he looked up and realized that Irina was just exposing 2 bite marks on her neck. She told Mbappe that Strahd needed only to capture her once more and she would transform and become his bride. Looking for the attic, the party reunited to determine where they needed to go by putting their heads together. They eventually took a wrong turn and wound up in a storage room with a strange mirror. The others left, but Giles decided to stay. Giles cast Detect Magic on the mirror, and it informed him that there was an assassin's ghost trapped in the mirror, as a message appeared on it. Magic mirror on the wall, summon forth your shade. Night's dark vengeance, heed my call, and wield your murderous blade. Wanting Strahd killed, Giles recited the phrase, deciding to shoot his shot, and suddenly he was surprised to meet not with an assassin in the mirror, but with Strahd, who began chiding him for wanting Strahd to be killed. Over the next few minutes, the two of them chit-chatted, and during that time, Giles slowly began to feel a change. It was subtle at first, but shortly enough he felt an uncontrollable longing towards Strahd. He had been charmed. All he could do was think about how hot Strahd was, and how much he loved Strahd now, and how badly he wanted to go eat with Daddy Strahd. As Strahd disappeared from the mirror's visage, Giles decided to go out and rejoin the party to convince them to go eat with Strahd right now. Elsewhere, the rest of their party had made their way to the attic, which was, regrettably, only accessible through a sleeping, or rather, attempting to sleep with all this ruckus going on around him, Erwin Mardukov. The party excused themselves and let themselves up into the attic as he returned to sleep. In the attic, they encountered a mess of things strewn about the floor, with a small footpath cleared through the mess, which ended at a door with a glyph of warding. Needing a mage to dispel the ward, Mbappe headed back down through Erwin's bedroom as Erwin lamented that the only exit to the attic was in his room. Mbappe, after some looking around, eventually found a very lost Giles who was uncontrollably sobbing while muttering incoherently about being embarrassed and being unable to find his friends, and some person named Daddy was going to be so ashamed of him. Needing to calm him down, Mbappe gave Giles one of his joints. In Giles's head, Strahd told him not to take it, but the will of the drugs was too strong. And so, now under a different thrall, the thrall of drugs, Mbappe led Giles up to the door in the attic, once again through Erwin's bedroom. On the other side of the door, Giles could hear the sounds of a young man practicing a teleportation spell. Stoned off his ass and confident in his abilities, Giles prepared a fireball spell. After a quick conference, the party decided that maybe just having Giles dispel the magic on the door would be the safer option here. And so he did that. With the ward gone, the party opened the door to discover a young man inside with a premature streak of gray hair. The boy introduced himself as Viktor Vilakovich. He was the son of the Baron, and his dad locked him up in the room. The party made a mental note that they would need to let his new dad, Erwin, know that he was up there. The party talked with him, and Victor became curious as to why the party was there in the first place. He asked if they were friends of Strahd. Giles immediately answered in a way that confused Otto and Mbappe. Otto figured that they would probably have to deal with that later, whatever it was. After a while, Victor gave the party some scrolls that they could use in their fight with Strahd. Giles was very vocally confused about why they would want to fight Strahd, a point which Otto once again figured they would get around to dealing with later. Heading back downstairs, the party decided to rest up while Otto finished resurrecting Doggo. In the meantime, Giles woke up an increasingly frustrated Erwin to introduce him to his new son, which actually went surprisingly well. Giles tucked in Erwin for the night one last time and left the room. As Otto and Giles did their respective things, Mbappe returned downstairs and began hotboxing the parlor. He was soon joined by a curious pair of maids, Hypatia and Boadicea. With what ensued, well, let's just say he had to roll double performance for everything, and he succeeded. He left both of them satisfied. There was nary a moment where one woman was not thinking she was getting enough attention. When it was all over, they departed briefly, returning with charcuterie and other bodacious snacks to chomp on. And around this time, Otto finished resurrecting Doggo.
Sorry, Doggo. Looks like you died again.
Rhino, Rado! My memories are intact.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you can still talk. I thought I could fix that.
The following morning, everyone gathered at the breakfast nook. Erwin even joined them, although it looked like he hadn't slept well for some reason. The maids brought out food and presented it to the group, saying, "Eat well, my lords, Mbappe." Remembering Strahd's invitation, and with Giles still charmed by Strahd, the party decided, with great suggestion from Giles, to finally go visit Strahd. And so, with Erwin and Irina's well wishes, the party set off towards Castle Ravenloft. As the party approached Old Bone Grinder, time had elapsed such that suddenly Giles felt his charm waning. Coming to his senses, he asked where the party was going, at which point they told him they were well on the way to Castle Ravenloft. Oops. As the party approached Castle Ravenloft, they found a familiar black carriage. It was identical to the one that Mbappe remembered taking with the mystery gang, and it was the last time he had seen them. Surely, knowing the party would fare differently, they confidently stepped inside. And with that, the carriage doors slammed shut, and it began to slowly move in the direction of the castle toward their nemesis.